One of the most important is that ticks do not like sun. Ticks like wet, cool areas, so they love to live in broken down mulch and leaves, tall grasses, nice, wet, shaded area. So if you can expose your entire lawn to the sun by trimming back tree branches and making sure that you have the full perimeter of your lawn exposed to full sun, you will greatly decrease the amount of ticks that can live in your grass. So you should rake the leaves, cut your grass short, dispose of broken down mulch and replace it with cedar chips because ticks do not like cedar oil. Plant chrysanthemums. Make a perimeter of cedar chips around the border of your lawn. Clean out stone walls, they're little mice hotels. Make tick tubes out of cotton balls soaked in permethrin and put them in old paper towel tubes and just kind of leave them in your yard, and the mice will come and take the permethrin soaked cotton back to its nest, which will kill all of the ticks there. You can buy bait boxes. They're really expensive, but they work. Basically, they frontline the mice or chipmunks or whatever little rodents can actually get inside of them. I got an estimate once for our 5-acre property, and I think it was like $3 grand a year, so that was definitely out. But you could probably make your own tick tubes for, you know, if I had to guess, probably like $2. So it's a much more affordable way to go. Don't put bird feeders out in your lawn because they attract mice and birds that carry ticks, and you guys all saw the pictures of those today. Having chickens and guinea hens, they eat ticks. So they're actually a great non-toxic way to control your tick population.
Chicken?
Yes, chickens. There are various insecticide sprays. Pyrethrum is derived from chrysanthemums. Try to say that like 5 times. It's considered organic, but it kills most insects. It's toxic to fish and also amphibians. It's one of the least toxic pesticides out there. It's biodegradable and it breaks down quickly in sunlight. Then there's permethrin, which is a synthetic chemical that acts like the pyrethrum, but it's much more toxic. It's definitely not organic. And I personally don't recommend using it on your lawn, just to make your tick tubes as long as you're wearing gloves. And then there's cedar oil, which is natural, non-toxic, and it's definitely a repellent. There are some sources that say that it actually can kill the ticks. I've sprayed it directly on ticks before, and it's taken, I think, finally about 2 hours later, but I think the tick may have drowned instead of being killed by the cedar. So I'm not convinced with that. I definitely know that it repels, but I don't believe that it kills. But that's just me. So for your pets, you obviously can do the front line and all of those things that you put directly on your pets. I didn't write it up here because it's not something that I'm for. I think you're better off doing the collars. There's Spectra Shield tags, which is what my family uses for our very large dogs. I had samples of them over on the table. My mother has stolen them. She'll hold them up and you can see what they are. So it's actually this medallion that you put on the dog's collar, and when he moves around, it taps the skin. So they get just like a very low, steady dose, as opposed to the collars sitting directly, you know, on their skin 24/7. And they seem to work pretty well. And then there's also the natural sprays. I personally love Wondercide, and then there's also Tixanol. So for our children, tick checks are probably the most important thing to do. I have a little boy who's almost 3, and as soon as it's time to go to bed, he goes, "No tick check, Mommy, no tick check," because he knows that it's coming. You should really be doing this every time your kids come back inside from playing outdoors, when they come home from school, before they go to bed, every time you give them a bath. It's really, you know, getting that tick off as soon as it gets on can prevent everything that we talked about today. Don't put playscapes in the shade. So again, shade is where the ticks love to be. If you have broken down mulch around your playscapes, it's just a breeding ground for ticks. And then we want our kids to have a healthy lifestyle, so trying to get them to eat anti-inflammatory foods, trying to limit the amount of sugar and processed foods that they eat, getting them adequate nutrition, fresh air, exercise, and play. Not that I'm suggesting you draw, a small child's blood just to know what their vitamin D levels are, but making sure they're getting adequate levels of D3. If you were to test, my recommendation is between 70 and 90. Taking 2 grams per day of EPA and DHA, and making sure they have a healthy microbiome. So for yourself, physical barriers are probably the most effective of, stopping the tick from attaching to you. So you've probably heard of most of this: wear light colored clothing, tuck your pants into your socks, tuck your shirt into your pants, put gloves on over a long sleeve shirt when you're out in the blazing sun trying to garden. None of it sounds comfortable. Pull your hair back, cover it. Wear a hat that has bug netting, kind of like a beekeeper hat. I had one of those that I used to wear. Scott would not walk with me when I had it on. Spraying yourself with the cedar oil products on self and clothing. There is a company called Insect Shield, and they treat special clothing and gear for outside activities like hunting, fishing, rock climbing, hiking. It lasts 70 washes. And then there are Insect Shield socks. There's a company called Bug Be Gone that makes them using the Insect Shield, and they're already treated. Again, they last about 70 washes. Me personally, I would put regular socks on, and then I would put those over them because I wouldn't want the permethrin treated socks touching my skin. But they claim that there's less than 1% of systemic absorption, but still, I don't like toxins, but I also don't like ticks. So. You can use DEET or permethrin on the soles of your shoes only, and then again doing tick checks. So the Tick Shield clothing. If you wear a t-shirt, you have 3 times the protection. If you wear shorts, you have 5 times the protection. But if you wear the socks, you actually have a 74-time protection from ticks, because most of the ticks are going to be crawling from the ground up. The ticks that did get under this clothing, most of them were dead. Even though they were attached, they were dead. So for self-care, keeping your immune system strong in case you do get bit is the best bet. So you want to decrease systemic inflammation, eliminate refined sugar and processed foods, consume healthy fats, take EPA, DHA, consume a micronutrient-rich, phytonutrient-rich foods with polyphenols, get adequate vitamin D, keep your adrenals strong, get adequate sleep, rest, and play, limit your stress, manage your stress if you can't limit it, and take immune-enhancing herbs if you have an increased exposure. So some of the herbs I recommend are andrographis, astragalus. Now this is if you do not have Lyme disease. I would not give someone with Lyme disease astragalus. Cat's claw, and then you can take a Lyme nose soap, which is like basically a homeopathic vaccine for lack of a really long explanation. So what do you do if you get bit? The most important thing is to not irritate the tick. So when the tick takes in its first sort of blood meal, it mobilizes the spirochetes from the hindgut, and they come up into the tick salivary glands, and when that tick pulls out on its own, it regurgitates, or basically throws up into you, putting all of the spirochetes into your body. So you want to get that tick out before it even knows it's getting taken out. So don't put alcohol or fingernail polish or try to burn it with the head of a match or Vaseline or any of the crazy things that I've heard people, no offense if you guys have tried to do that, to ticks that they find on their body. Proper removal is using a flat-tipped pair of tweezers. You want to go all the way down to the skin as far as you can on that tick to where it's into your skin, and you just want to gently pull with steady force until the tick releases itself. They have a lot of these spinner things that they sell. What's that? Good?
Absolutely. True. Thank you.
I do not lie. So you don't want to use those spinny things. You don't want to put cotton on it and twirl it around. I mean, I've heard crazy things. You don't want to grab the tick right in the middle and explode it. And I mean, you really want to try not to leave the head in, because if the head's in, the mouth is in, and you know, you're leaving room for the spirochetes to be injected into your body. So once the tick is removed, I would clean the area with hydrogen peroxide. I suggest soaking a cotton ball in what's called Afterbite, and then applying that to the area with a Band-Aid. Afterbite has endographis, which is directly anti-spirochetal, even topically, like if it were poured in a dish with spirochetes. And it has like plantain to help to draw out some of the nasty things that the tick puts into your body. Put the tick in a Ziploc bag, don't kill it or do anything to it, and then I recommend sending it to tickreport.com. So if you go to www.tickreport.com and it takes like 30 seconds, you put in your name, address, where the tick was found, how long you think it was attached, and your method of payment, and it ranges from $50 to test for their basic panel, and it goes up to 200, but 200 tests for every single pathogen that they have the capability to test for, and I think it's around 20 things. Do you know, Tom? Okay. So this is an example of a report that one of my patients had done. This was just the $50 panel, and you can see that unfortunately the patient, the tick was positive for Borrelia general species, and then also for Babesia macrate. My son was bit, I sent it out to the same place, and thank God I did the whole report, and every single one of his was negative. So it can really give you that peace of mind, and the turnaround time is 72 hours. So I was taught that you have about a 4-day window to get on doxycycline to prevent the infection, and so I sent the tick same day. It was an insane amount of money, but I was like, I need to make sure that I have my results back in 72 hours. So if you FedEx overnight it and they get it back to you within their 72 hours of arrival, you still can be within that 4-hour window of finding out, do I even have to worry based off of what's in that tick? Okay, so if you do get bit, you can mix the Afterbite. If you don't want to soak it in a cotton ball, you can mix it with bentonite clay, and that has a drawing effect to help to draw things out of the skin. I recommend orally taking astragalus. It's a huge dose, 300 milligrams per day for 30 days. I have people take endographis, 30 drops 3 times a day for 30 days, and then echinacea to increase white blood cells. I mean, there's a multitude of things that you could do. You want to watch for any expanding redness or heat at the attachment site. You want to look for systemic symptoms such as fever, stiff neck, aching, or headaches, and don't panic. Cortisol lowers your immune system, and you need your immune system to fight, especially if that tick did have some sort of microbe that it passed on to you. Oops, that must be it. Thank you.